Did you know that more people now get their news online than from any other source? MaineWebNews.com covers the current events forming the trends of tomorrow. Experience the future of Maine news today at MaineWebNews.com.
Welcome to the Maine Web News Gubernatorial Series, where we sit down with the candidates to hear their position on certain issues. Today they'll be talking about the Second Amendment. Would you support any changes to the current Maine gun laws?
Boy, I wouldn't, Jared. I'll tell you why. I mean, Maine is one of the most safest states in the nation. That's something that we should applaud, you know. We're doing it right. Our public safety officials, I got a real passion for public safety. You know, I ran a wrecker when we first started in the collision business, so I was out with these guys 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, you know, picking people up off in the ditch and on the road, and we were involved with extrication back then because they didn't have the tools and equipment like they have today. So I'd physically help them get people out of cars that were hurt and injured and things. So I have a strong passion for the firefighters, the police, rescue, work hand in hand with them for about a decade, running the record 24/7. So I think getting back to Maine being a safe state, that's something we're doing well. And no, I think we've got the laws that we have in place are adequate, and we infringe on people's rights and liberties enough.
Great. The governor of North Carolina had declared last week that you couldn't have a gun outside of your home due to the emergency, which the emergency was a hurricane. As governor, do you feel there are any situations where it's necessary to declare an emergency and take people's Second Amendment right away from them?
I can't envision it. That one certainly doesn't substantiate it, but I mean, if there was some type of a catastrophic, no, I can't really. I mean, I just can't think beyond what would normally happen. I guess it's happened in our lifetime. That's actually probably in a time of crisis when people need that right. You know, that's why they bear arms. They want to protect themselves. So that, again, that's just the type of governance that flies in the face of, you know, what this country was founded on.
I'm not overly familiar with the current Maine gun laws, but I don't hear a lot of people complaining about where we are with current Maine gun laws. I enjoy my firearms. You know I do. Target practice, I own 72 acres. I get up there once in a while and we do some shooting there and marksmanship. I don't see a need, no. I'm a very adamant supporter of the Second Amendment. I mean, it goes without saying. I don't even understand why people want to go down that road. What I do understand is that there are folks with opposing views. I don't believe there's room for them in our constitutional system that outlines clearly. But I'll listen to concerns. I spoke with a woman in Portland. She asked me my position on gun control. I made it very clear. She said, my sister was murdered at the hands of a firearm, you know, down in Philadelphia. And I feel for her, and I understand that, but that firearm didn't discharge itself. So we need to remember that as citizens.
Right. What do you have for guns?
Well, I have my dad's 30-06 Woodsmaster, which was handed down to me over the generations, and that's a very low serial number semi-automatic 30-06. And I also have a long barrel 22 Ruger single 6, which is the old Western style commemorative Ruger 22. Has a cartridge, the barrel interchanges for the 22 Magnum and the 22 rounds. Again, my father's firearm.
Great. The governor of North Carolina recently declared an emergency over weather conditions, and underneath those conditions, it would be illegal in North Carolina to have a firearm outside of one's home. Can you foresee any reason as a governor that you would feel the need to take away people's Second Amendment during an emergency situation?
No, not at all. I don't even really believe that that's constitutional. That's a federally protected right. That's in our first 10 amendments. That is the domain of our federal government. That is a principle that guarantees to each and every member of our society the right to bear arms. Under an emergency situation, you know, invasion by a foreign power where they're running over the town, hide your guns. Go outside and pretend you're not armed. That's the only scenario I could rightly imagine strategically. I don't foresee that in our future at all. But when you ask me, this is something that separates me from other candidates. I'll give serious thought to any and all circumstance. But no, I don't see a need, or I would never even imagine trying to suppress the right to bear arms, ever.
The only changes that I see necessary for the gun laws in Maine is to remove them. I believe that we should honor the United States Constitution and the Constitution of the state of Maine, and we should have no controls other than controls on convicted felons. I believe we should take guns away from convicted felons, but an everyday, honest, hardworking citizen should have the right to own and bear arms, period. It should not be tampered with.
So no background checks for, well, I guess you would have to do a background check to find if you're a convicted felon, but registration?
I'm against registration. I think you should own a gun. I don't think that registering your gun, doing a background check is vital to find your convicted felons. But quite frankly, gun controls have not stopped the murders in this country, have not slowed or stopped assaults with guns. The problem is this: everybody blames the gun manufacturers. Everybody blames everybody but what's really happening. What's really happening is those without guns, or those that are controls and live by the laws, become vulnerable to those who don't live by the law. It's that simple. In Switzerland, the head of household is required to own a gun. There's a city in Georgia that implemented a similar law, and 50% of the crime went out the door immediately. I'm not suggesting that we put a law in that says you have to own a gun, but what I'm saying is every law-abiding citizen has the right and the duty to protect his family and protect his assets.
So when you saw, I don't know if you saw it, but last week the North Carolina governor declared an emergency over the weather, and you see all these emergencies being declared now, but part of the impact of that would be if you were outside of your home with a gun, it was illegal. Can you foresee as governor any reason to ever take away people's Second Amendment rights during an emergency?
No. I just can't envision it. During an emergency, during these hurricanes or storms, or 9/11, for instance, when 9/11 occurred, looting became a major problem. Well, I believe that the owners of those establishments and those businesses and those homes have the right to protect themselves, and they certainly have the responsibility and duty to protect their family. So I think the governor of North Carolina was absolutely wrong.
The other candidates have been invited to take part in this series, but so far we haven't been able to make that happen. This is Jared LeBlanc covering the issues that matter on Maine Web News.
Experience the future of Maine News today at mainewebnews.com.
Consider making www.mainewebnews.com your homepage. You'll be able to use our Start Page search engine, which does not record your IP address or track your searches like other search engines.